I had always considered myself a pretty typical guy, or at least that's what everyone around me believed. I went to work, came home, hung out with friends, and spent evenings scrolling through social media like anyone else. But beneath the surface, there was a part of me I rarely admitted even to myself, a fascination with skirts, dresses, and the delicate elegance of high heels. I had tried to ignore it for years, labeling it a weird phase or a fleeting curiosity. But deep down, it felt like something I couldn't simply push aside. My name is Ryan, and for as long as I can remember, I had secretly experimented with clothing that most guys wouldn't dare wear. It started innocently, trying on a pair of leggings when no one was home, slipping into my sister's oversized sweaters, just to feel the soft fabric against my skin. But the real thrill came with skirts and heels, with the way my body shifted, how the world seemed different when I moved in them. I never told anyone, not my friends, not my family, and certainly not Emma, my girlfriend of 3 years. Emma was wonderful, beautiful, funny, and intelligent, but she had no idea about this hidden part of me. Our relationship was normal on the surface, full of shared laughs, movie nights, and quiet dinners at home. But I constantly worried that if she knew about my secret, it would change everything. Would she laugh? Would she think I was weird? Or worse, would she see me differently? That night started like any other. I returned from work, the office buzzing in my mind, the fluorescent lights still flickering behind my eyes. Emma was out visiting a friend, leaving me alone in our small apartment. The solitude was both comforting and dangerous. It was the perfect opportunity to explore my curiosity, the part of me that longed to feel soft fabrics hugging my legs and the unfamiliar thrill of walking on heels. I opened the drawer where I had carefully stored my collection, a modest but carefully chosen set of skirts, stockings, and heels. I ran my fingers over the fabric, my heart beating faster with every touch. Each piece held its own story, each fabric a silent promise of transformation. Tonight, I told myself I would finally push beyond curiosity. Tonight, I would dress fully and experience the feeling I had only ever imagined. Choosing the outfit was a ritual in itself. I pulled out a delicate pleated skirt, pale pink with soft folds that seemed to whisper promises of elegance. Then came the blouse, white with lace trim, its fabric smooth and cool against my skin as I slipped it over my shoulders. I stared in the mirror, seeing a reflection that was both me and not me, a version of myself I had hidden for years, a version I was only now daring to embrace. The real challenge came with the heels. I had practiced walking in them before, but never for more than a few minutes. My legs trembled as I stepped into the shoes, the sensation foreign and electric. I took a tentative step, then another, trying to mimic the grace I had seen in videos and magazines. My balance wavered, my knees shook, and yet, with each careful stride, I felt a strange confidence, a rush of excitement that made my heart race. As I moved around the apartment, the sound of the heels clicking against the hardwood floors echoed in my ears. It was intoxicating. I felt different, not just physically but emotionally. There was a tension, a vulnerability, and yet a thrill in knowing I was exploring a side of myself no one else knew. It was exhilarating and terrifying. I paused in front of the mirror, turning slowly, examining every angle. My reflection stared back at me, a perfect mixture of fear and curiosity, shame and excitement. I traced the lines of my body, the curve of the skirt, the slenderness of my ankles, the unfamiliar poise in my posture. It was a strange, intoxicating experience, one that made me both proud and scared of the intensity of my feelings. Emma would be home soon, and that added a layer of anxiety I hadn't anticipated. The thought of her walking through the door while I was in this unfamiliar persona made my stomach twist. Would I have time to change back? Would she notice something different? My mind raced, imagining every possible scenario, each more nerve-wracking than the last. And yet, despite the fear, I couldn't stop. I practiced moving, sitting, even laughing in front of the mirror, trying to capture the essence of this new, delicate self. It wasn't just about the clothing or the heels, it was about feeling different, about embodying a version of myself that I had long suppressed. Time passed in a blur. Each movement, each glance at the mirror, each careful step in heels felt like both a triumph and a test. I realized that tonight wasn't just about curiosity. It was about understanding who I was, about embracing a side of myself I had hidden for too long. I felt a mixture of liberation and fear, joy and shame, all swirling together in a dizzying storm. And just as I began to settle into this newfound persona, I heard the sound of keys jingling in the lock. Emma was home. My heart stopped. Every thrill, every vulnerability, every secret I had carefully guarded was now at risk of being exposed. I froze in front of the mirror, the heels clicking against the floor, the skirt swaying gently. I had to decide. Would I hide, change back into my old self, and pretend none of this ever happened? Or would I take a leap, embrace the feeling fully, and face the possibility that my secret side might finally be seen? The moment was electric, suspended between fear and desire, between shame and exhilaration. And as the door opened, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The moment the apartment door clicked shut behind Emma, I felt a surge of both relief and panic. Relief because I had a few precious hours alone to explore this hidden part of myself. Panic because the thought of her walking in unexpectedly still lingered like a shadow, keeping my nerves on edge. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands as I adjusted the pleated skirt and smoothed the blouse against my chest. Walking across the room in heels was more challenging than I had imagined. My ankles wobbled, my balance teetered precariously, and every click of the shoes against the hardwood floor felt deafening. I tried to mimic the elegance I had watched countless times in videos, each step deliberate, careful, but somehow still clumsy. It frustrated me, but also exhilarated me. Each stumble reminded me how unfamiliar this world felt, yet how alive it made me feel. I moved toward the full-length mirror in the corner, my reflection almost unrecognizable. The delicate pink skirt swayed with each step, the lace-trimmed blouse accentuating my shoulders in a way I had never noticed before. My legs, now encased in smooth stockings, looked different, slender, elegant, foreign. I traced the outline of my figure with my eyes, feeling a strange combination of embarrassment and pride. For the first time, I wasn't just imagining this side of myself. I was living it. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for the makeup kit I had hidden in the drawer. Foundation, mascara, subtle eyeshadow, each product a tool for transformation. As I applied the first layers, I marveled at the way my face seemed to soften, the harsh angles fading under the careful strokes of a brush. I had never imagined my own face could look so different, yet so familiar at the same time. Every layer of makeup, every adjustment of the skirt or heels, was a small act of courage. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet undeniably exhilarated. I realized that this was more than just curiosity. It was a part of me I had kept hidden, a secret longing that had been suppressed for too long. And now, in the quiet of the apartment, it was finally coming to life. I practiced sitting and standing, mimicking the graceful movements I had observed in other women. Each motion felt unnatural at first, but slowly, I began to embody the persona I had long fantasized about. I twirled once in front of the mirror, laughing softly at the absurdity of it all, yet secretly reveling in the thrill. I had never felt so alive, so daring, and yet so terrified all at once. The hours passed in a blur of experimentation. I tried different hairstyles, adjusted the skirt and blouse, and even practiced a soft, feminine voice. Each change brought a new wave of excitement, but also a pang of anxiety. What if Emma walked in now? What if she discovered this secret side of me? My heart raced at the thought, the thrill and fear intertwining into a potent mixture that left me breathless. I decided to push further. I carefully chose a second outfit from my collection, a slightly tighter skirt, a blouse with delicate ruffles, and a pair of slightly higher heels. I changed quickly, my fingers fumbling with the buttons as my mind raced with anticipation. When I finally stepped in front of the mirror again, I hardly recognized myself. This wasn't just Ryan anymore. It was someone entirely new, someone bold and fragile at the same time. Sitting down, I tried to focus on my breathing, on steadying my hands as they rested delicately on my lap. The sensation of the skirt against my legs, the unfamiliar height of the heels, and the weight of the makeup all combined into a feeling I couldn't fully describe. It was vulnerability, yes, but also empowerment. For the first time, I felt seen, even if only by my own reflection. Then came the moment I had been dreading and anticipating all at once. The sound of a knock at the door. My heart stopped, my stomach twisting into knots. Could it be Emma? Had she returned early? I froze, unsure whether to hide, change back, or answer the door as this new version of myself. Every instinct screamed that I needed to hide, but another part of me, braver and more reckless than I expected, urged me to embrace the moment. I tiptoed to the door, my heels making soft, precarious clicks against the floor. Peeking through the peephole, I saw a neighbor from the floor below, holding a package. Relief flooded me momentarily, but the tension remained. I had survived the scare, but the reality of my secret life remained intensely fragile. Any mistake, any sound, any moment of carelessness could expose me. After the neighbor left, I sank back in front of the mirror, my heart still racing. The adrenaline, combined with the vulnerability and excitement, left me shaking. I realized that this was more than just a hobby. It was a core part of my identity, one that I had never allowed myself to explore fully. And now, with every glance at the mirror, every step in the heels, every adjustment of the skirt, I was discovering a new version of myself that I didn't want to ignore. I experimented further, walking around the apartment, practicing gestures, and even trying a few expressions in the mirror. Each moment was a delicate dance between thrill and fear, between self-expression and the risk of discovery. The sound of my heels clicking on the floor echoed in my ears, a constant reminder of the precariousness of my new identity. Hours passed, and fatigue began to set in. My legs ached from the heels, my back ached from sitting and standing in unfamiliar positions, and my mind buzzed with a whirlwind of emotions. And yet, even in exhaustion, I couldn't stop. The feeling of being fully myself, of embracing this hidden side, was intoxicating. I had crossed a threshold, and there was no turning back. Just as I was about to change back and catch my breath, I heard the faint sound of the apartment door unlocking. Panic shot through me like electricity. Emma was home. My mind raced through possibilities, strategies, and excuses, but the reality was simple. I had to confront this new identity, at least for a moment, before hiding it again. I took a deep breath, straightened my posture, and stepped toward the door, each click of my heels echoing like a countdown. The door swung open, and Emma's eyes widened in surprise. I froze, unsure what expression to hold, what words to speak, how to maintain the fragile balance between my secret and her perception of me. "Ryan, what are you wearing?" Her voice was a mixture of shock, curiosity, and disbelief. My stomach dropped, my heart raced, but I held my ground, trying to meet her gaze without flinching. The moment stretched, heavy with tension, as the reality of my secret life was poised on the edge of discovery. Emma took a step closer, her eyes scanning the skirt, the heels, the carefully applied makeup. I could feel the weight of her judgment, the potential for rejection, yet also a flicker of understanding, or perhaps fascination. The apartment felt smaller, the air thicker, as I stood on the precipice of a revelation that could change everything between us. And in that suspended moment, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The thrill, the fear, the vulnerability, and the exhilaration had all merged into a single, powerful truth. I had stepped into a new world, a world where I was not just Ryan, but someone entirely different, and I couldn't deny it any longer. The moment stretched between us like a fragile thread, trembling under the weight of unspoken tension. Emma stood frozen at the doorway, her eyes wide, trying to process the sight before her. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure she could hear it, my mind spinning with possibilities of rejection, anger, curiosity, or even laughter. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to meet her gaze, even as every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to vanish behind the skirts and heels that now defined me. I can explain, I stammered, my voice wavering, soft, feminine even, from the voice practice I had been experimenting with earlier. Emma blinked, her expression unreadable. The seconds dragged on, heavy with suspense, as I tried to summon the courage to speak my truth. "You've been doing this?" she finally asked, her voice a whisper, tinged with shock and intrigue. My stomach sank. I nodded slowly, words failing me. I had rehearsed 100 explanations in my mind, but now, in the heat of the moment, all my rehearsed confidence vanished. Emma stepped closer, tilting her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she had never seen before. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, and for a moment, I feared the worst. But then something in her eyes softened, a flicker of curiosity replacing the initial shock. She took another step closer, her gaze lingering on the delicate pink skirt, the lace blouse, the heels that elevated me both physically and emotionally. "You look different," she said finally, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. Relief surged through me, but it was tinged with fear. Different could be good, or it could be a polite way of saying, "I don't know how to feel about this." I tried to gauge her reaction, every muscle in my body taut with anticipation. Before I could respond, a sudden knock at the door made both of us jump. My heart stopped. Who could it be now? We weren't expecting anyone. Emma and I exchanged a terrified glance. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and caught in a moment I hadn't fully anticipated. "I'll get it," she said, her voice steady, though her eyes mirrored my anxiety. She opened the door, revealing our neighbor, smiling awkwardly, holding a package. Relief washed over us both, but it was fleeting. The adrenaline had already spiked, and now it had left me hyper-aware of every movement, every shadow, every sound in the apartment. As Emma turned back toward me, the silence between us felt electric. I wanted to speak, to explain everything, but my nerves betrayed me. Instead, I simply stood there, heels clicking softly against the floor, skirts swaying with each hesitant step. I felt a strange, intoxicating mix of empowerment and exposure, like a tightrope walker teetering between freedom and disaster. Emma approached, her hand hovering near mine. "Do you want me to try it?" she asked, a spark of mischief and curiosity in her eyes. My stomach dropped, but the thrill was undeniable. I don't know if you should," I began, but she interrupted me with a playful smirk. "Come on just for a second. I want to understand what this feels like for you," she said, grabbing my wrist gently. I hesitated, then allowed her to guide me toward the mirror. She studied my reflection, tracing the lines of the skirt, the heels, the carefully applied makeup. "You look beautiful," she whispered, and my breath caught in my throat. Her words were like fire and ice, warmth mixed with fear, desire mingled with judgment. I wanted to melt into the moment, to embrace the thrill, but the tension in my chest reminded me that this was dangerous, that my secret life had never been so exposed. We experimented cautiously, Emma adjusting a strand of hair, helping me balance in the heels, guiding my posture. Each touch, each movement, sent shivers through me. It was intimate, vulnerable, electrifying. I could feel the thrill of being seen, truly seen, in a way I had never experienced. But with it came fear, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of losing control over the secret I had guarded for so long. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. My heart leapt into my throat. What now? I stumbled slightly in the heels, catching myself against the edge of the counter. Emma rushed to investigate, and I was left frozen, skirt swaying, makeup slightly smudged from my nervous hands. It was just a plate I had accidentally knocked over earlier while adjusting my heels. Relief surged, but it was tempered by the realization that any small mistake could expose me fully. I laughed nervously, brushing off the incident, but inside, my mind raced. Every sound, every movement, Every shadow became a potential threat to the fragile bubble of safety I had created. As Emma returned, I noticed the way her gaze lingered on me, assessing, curious, almost reverent. She reached out, adjusting the hem of my skirt gently, and I felt a thrill unlike anything I had experienced before. It was intoxicating, being cared for, being noticed, being admired in a way that transcended simple attraction. But then the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. This time, it wasn't a neighbor, it was someone unexpected. My sister, who had promised to visit tomorrow but had apparently decided to come early. Panic coursed through me. I wasn't just vulnerable, I was exposed. The carefully constructed persona I had built over the hours teetered on the edge of collapse. Emma and I exchanged a terrified glance. There was no time to change, no way to hide the skirts, the heels, the makeup. My sister would see me exactly as I was, my secret life laid bare in a way I hadn't anticipated. My hands shook, my knees wobbled, and I felt a surge of panic so intense it was almost paralyzing. The doorknob turned. My reflection in the mirror blurred as adrenaline flooded my system. Every scenario I had imagined in my secret fantasies, every fear, every desire, was now coming to life in real time. Would she laugh? Cry? Judge me? Or, heaven forbid, tell Emma or someone else? Emma grabbed my hand, squeezing it tightly. "Whatever happens, I've got you," she whispered, grounding me in the storm of fear and exhilaration. Her words were both comforting and terrifying, reminding me that this moment was irreversible. The door opened, and my sister stepped inside, eyes wide. "Ryan, what? Why are you?" she began, her words faltering as she took in the sight of me in skirts, heels, and makeup. My breath caught. The apartment felt impossibly small, the air thick with tension, and my heart raced like a drum. In that suspended moment, time seemed to freeze. Every fear, every thrill, every secret I had held was exposed, teetering on the edge of discovery. I realized, with a mixture of dread and exhilaration, that nothing could ever return to the way it was before. I was caught between fear and desire, shame and exhilaration, vulnerability and empowerment, all in a single heartbeat. Emma stepped forward, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. "She's going to see you as you are," she said gently, her voice steady but filled with intensity. I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to steady my trembling hands. I had no choice now but to face the consequences, to confront the reality of my secret life in the harsh, unfiltered light of exposure. And as my sister's eyes met mine, wide with shock and confusion, I realized that this was only the beginning. The thrill, the fear, the vulnerability, and the exhilaration had all merged into a single, undeniable truth. I had stepped fully into a world where I could no longer hide, where I could no longer pretend, and where the consequences of my secret life would finally come crashing down. The apartment fell into a tense silence, broken only by the soft, uneven clicks of my heels against the floor. My sister stood frozen, her eyes wide, taking in the sight of me in skirts, heels, and makeup. Emma's hand still rested on my shoulder, a grounding presence amid the storm of panic and adrenaline. I don't even know what to say," my sister finally whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I opened my mouth to explain, but the words stuck. How could I sum up hours of secret longing, exploration, fear, and exhilaration in a single sentence? Emma squeezed my shoulder reassuringly. "It's okay. Just breathe," she whispered, her voice calm but carrying an intensity that made my heart pound even faster. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing thoughts, my trembling legs, and the flood of emotions threatening to overtake me. My sister took a hesitant step closer, eyes flicking from my skirt to my heels, then back to my face. "Ryan, are you really okay with this?" she asked, and the question cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just about being seen. It was about being accepted, about whether the life I had quietly explored alone would be acknowledged or rejected by someone who had always known me in a completely different context. I don't know," I admitted honestly, my voice quivering. but I know this is me, at least part of me.
And
I can't ignore it anymore. My hands fidgeted with the hem of my skirt, heels clicking nervously against the hardwood floor. Vulnerability and exhilaration collided, leaving me breathless and exposed. Emma leaned closer, her eyes locking with mine. "You're not alone," she said softly. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Her words sent a wave of warmth through me, but the fear remained. Fear of judgment, of misunderstanding, of everything unraveling in a single moment. Before I could process my thoughts, my sister's expression shifted, a mixture of curiosity, confusion, and something unreadable flickering across her face. "So, this isn't just for fun?" she asked cautiously. My stomach tightened. Was she about to reject me, laugh, or, worst of all, expose me to the rest of the world? It's complicated, I admitted. I've never told anyone before, not even you. The weight of my secret, of the vulnerability I had carried alone, pressed down on me. Every heartbeat seemed amplified in the thick silence that followed. Emma stepped forward slightly, her presence shielding me. "It's real. And it's important. You can undo it, but you also don't have to face it alone." Her voice, calm and reassuring, grounded me, even as my sister's wide-eyed gaze held me in suspense. Then, a sudden sound made all of us jump, a sharp buzz from my phone lying on the counter. A message notification from an unknown number glowed on the screen. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. Who could it be? Was it someone discovering my secret? A message from a friend, a neighbor, or someone else entirely? My sister glanced at the phone, curiosity replacing some of her initial shock. Emma's hand tightened on my shoulder, and I felt the weight of the moment press even heavier. I reached for the phone, my fingers trembling. The screen lit up my face, revealing a simple, chilling message. "I know what you've been hiding. See you soon." Time seemed to stop. My legs wobbled in the heels, my skirt swayed nervously, and my chest tightened with panic. Emma and my sister looked at me, eyes wide with alarm. My secret, my hidden life, the thrill I had embraced, it was no longer safe. Someone else knew. Who is this?" my sister asked, her voice trembling. I shook my head, unable to speak, my mind racing with possibilities. Emma's grip on my shoulder tightened, her eyes scanning the room, as if to detect any threat we hadn't anticipated. I felt a rush of fear, excitement, and helplessness all at once. My heart pounded like a drum, echoing the uncertainty that now dominated the room. The fragile world I had built in skirts and heels, the secret life I had cherished, was hanging by a thread. The buzzer rang again, louder this time. My stomach dropped. Someone or something was outside. The apartment door rattled slightly, sending a shiver down my spine. I glanced at Emma, who whispered urgently, "Stay calm. Whatever happens, we face it together." I looked at my sister, her expression a mixture of shock and concern, and realized that nothing would ever be the same. My secret, my identity, my vulnerability, it was all exposed, and now the consequences were inevitable. I took a deep breath, clutching the hem of my skirt, balancing precariously in the heels that had become both my armor and my vulnerability. The door rattled again, and a shadow loomed just beyond the peephole. Whoever it was had discovered more than I had ever anticipated. And in that moment, frozen between fear and exhilaration, I realized the story wasn't over. It had only just begun. The screen fades to black, leaving everything unresolved, my secret, my identity, and the unknown threat at the door.